Well, at least nobody blew out an ACL going into this one. A relatively chill Tuesday recap show. Welcome, everybody, to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Vespris. Let's dive straight into yesterday's action. Toronto was at Orlando. That was the first game on the card. And there weren't that many surprises in this ball game. Jakob Poeltl, the minutes are still not all the way back up, but he's playing well, so we're good there. Scotty Barnes is a go. RJ Barrett is a go in your specific punt builds, and though his game wasn't as good in this one, Emmanuel Quickley is also a go. Paolo Banchero had a good ball game, which he really needed because it's been, I guess he's been okay since the All-Star break, but overall he's been quite terrible. Really after like the first 4 games of the year, pretty much. We're not going to dive into any of these other guys. You're not picking up KCP. You're not picking up Tristan da Silva. You're not picking up Goga or Wendell Carter Jr. You're not picking up Jonathan Isaac. It's just Paolo and Franz on this team because Jalen Suggs is donezo. And then Cole Anthony, who was out for this game. When Orlando has a better scheduling spot, he makes more sense in that regard, but it's only a 3-game week, and their schedule doesn't get better really for a while. There's like a little pocket towards the end of next week that is a little bit better, but overall, not much to take away from Orlando. We're going to move pretty quick on today's show, so get used to it. The pace is going to be good. And so to that end, hey, do you like perhaps betting on pace? Maybe you'd like to check out our friends at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. From every three-pointer to hat trick, Bet Online has you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online boasts the largest selection of odds on the interwebs on everything from the NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC. And then we got baseball coming up right around the corner. So whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. Bet Online, the game starts here. Houston rested everybody yesterday. Yesterday to this card. I'm actually not recording this night of. I'm recording it the next morning. I'm just an idiot. Houston rested everybody on Monday so that they'd have almost all of their guys on Tuesday, and they lost both because at the end of the day, the Rockets struggle without Freddie VanVleet. You can try to minimize what he does for the team all you want. He's the captain of that boat. Or ship, I guess a boat. I don't know. What do I know about maritime nomenclature? Tari Eason was solid. Alperen Şengün was solid. Ahmed Thompson was fine. Jabari Smith Jr. got a little extra run because Jalen Green sat this one out. Oh, no, he didn't. Excuse me. Jalen Green was in there. He was just bad. It's way down to the bottom. I didn't watch this game live. Full disclosure, this was not one of the ones I was watching because I didn't really expect anything interesting to come out of this ball game. But anyway, so Jabari Smith Jr. was a little bit better. Yeah, to me, he's more of a schedule level guy, I think. And then Eason, Şengün, Thompson, and, if you're in the right build, Jalen Green, those are the guys you can use more regularly. Tyrese Halliburton has been a freaking behemoth lately. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Halliburton is up to number 6 on the season per game in 9-cat. He's been dominant lately on a run for the ages. Remember when, and this is a doodly doodly doodly, like, the little pink outline a la Saved by the Bell in the 90s. Remember the dream sequence way, way back when everybody wrote off Tyrese Halliburton at the beginning of this year when he started at like a top 60 clip and couldn't shoot? Yeah, that's funny now because not only has he been great for the better part of 3.5 months after that bad start, he's also been extraordinarily, to this point, knock on table, durable. He's number 4 by totals this year. That's a huge win. I talked about Andrew Nembhard on a couple of shows. He's an assists and steals stream right now. Typically an okay field goal percent guy because he doesn't shoot the 3 ball, but he got you like a classic Chris Dunn line in this ball game with a couple of blocks and 6 rebounds. Specialist appeal. That's the time of year we're at. Pascal Siakam is in a deep funk that has, not coincidentally, corresponded with Tyrese Halliburton getting very, very, very hot. It'll level off at some point, that point is just not today. And I think a lot of leagues are past their trade deadline, but some are not. Pascal Siakam is a pretty good buy low for when the sort of hotness flips. And Aaron Nesmith is a schedule guy as well. Milwaukee got a, I don't know, I mean, can we call it a quality road win? The Hawks are not very good these days. They traded away some pieces. Losing Jalen Johnson obviously was a bummer. But they are still the 9 seed. The Bucks are firmly in the 4 spot. Remember their terrible start to the year? Milwaukee's largely gotten things ironed out. Kyle Kuzma was actually pretty good in this ball game. He shot 7 out of 10 from the field, 17 points, 10 rebounds. Like, that's as good as it's going to get. To me, he's still a points league guy or like a double punt kind of dude. Though it looks like Milwaukee is considering resting a bunch of dudes here coming up. We'll see if that actually shakes out. Kuzma, it's the ankle, Dame, and Giannis. You can see the little bed logo here on Basketball Monster. That is, are they going to sit some upcoming ball game? Because they're off for 2 days, and then the Bucks have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. So it's just sort of like getting out in front of it. There are no ads or drops on the Milwaukee side. Atlanta's a little bit more interesting. Mo Gay had 15 and 5 with 2 steals and a block. It's his first good game in a while, so you can just sort of compartmentalize that and push it off to the side. We talked about how the Hawks were one of the best streaming options this week for all of those wings like Karis LeVert and Terrence Mann, who, again, not exciting, but you get the idea. George Niang, who missed the first one of those back-to-back, so wasn't really on our board, and Zachary Reese-Shea. I also brought up Clint Capella as a center stream because you weren't going to play all that much, but you knew you were going to get some rebounds, field goal percent, and probably some defensive stats, typically blocks, out of Clint. That all worked according to plan. It worked great for Karis LeVert. It worked fine for Capella, Mann, and Reese-Shea, who did not have a particularly good game here today. You can, however, stick with Atlanta through Saturday if you want. They've got Indiana in 2 games in a row, so there's going to be a couple of high-paced ball games. It seems likely that those wing guys will probably get some kind of stats. I would assume that Karis LeVert probably cools off in one of those games, but you sort of never know. Guys get hot for more than 2 days at a time. But in terms of using it against a games cap, things you could play on Atlanta rest of season, I don't think any of those fringy guys hits that marker. I told you guys we are hustling today. The Warriors with Jimmy Butler back in the mix. He's over the back thing, at least for now. It's Butler, Podziemski, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. Very easy call there for rest of season guys. Streamer level guys would be Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, and sometimes Quentin Post. The Knicks, first of all, got beat at home. The Knicks have this hole in their game against the good teams. They have struggled against the teams playing well so far this year. Now, to be fair, they were without Cat for this one, so they were kneecapped a little bit. Mitchell Robinson got the start, 7 points, 5 rebounds in 15 minutes. He doesn't have his legs back. Precious Achiuwa was the more favorable fill-in at 8 points and 15 boards. I have no idea if Cat's going to miss another ball game, so I wouldn't advise picking up Precious now. The Knicks do have a back-to-back tomorrow and Friday, so if we get word that Cat isn't ready in time, then you might take the plunge on that one. Otherwise, you roll with the starters because that's the way it's all. Including Cat, I should say, not Mitchell Robinson, because that's the way it's been all damn season long. This game was actually tied. Cleveland beat Chicago by 22. This game was tied with 7 minutes to go, and then it was just an absolute avalanche after that. No real surprises here. Ty Jerome was fine. He's obviously much better when either Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland is out. There is a distinct possibility that someone misses a game here for Cleveland because they're playing Charlotte in the next one. That should be pretty much a cakewalk. Then they have Brooklyn on Tuesday of next week, so you might see somebody get a rest day there. You just got to kind of keep an eye out on it because the Cavs are so far out in front of everybody else. And then for those, be ready to use Ty Jerome and probably Max Strus, frankly, and maybe even DeAndre Hunter when one of the big usage guys is not in the ball game. Chicago's the more interesting team in this one because you're not just game planning when a star might sit. Their guys are out already. Not all the stars necessarily, whatever stars you might say the Bulls have left, but Vooch is still on the shelf with his calf thing. So Zach Collins is steamrolling the NBA. Kobe White has all the usage he can handle. That's great. And then you get into everybody else. So Patrick Williams is out. Lonzo Ball is out. Kevin Huerter is also out. It's really opened things up for a number of other players to pop into the mix. Matas Bucelis, who you guys know I'm not super high on in general, but if he's going to get 31, 32 minutes a game, he would be a play. The problem is that I don't know of the Bulls players looking ahead, to say like Lonzo as the next one. What's the deal there? He's missed a couple of ball games in a row now. It's a sprained wrist. I have no idea how serious it is. He could pop back up at any moment, but also, like, what's the point of rushing him? And then we know Patrick Williams is out for a little bit longer, but we haven't gotten much of an update on Vooch lately. So am I racing out to pick up Bucelis? Probably not. Chicago has not a great schedule here this week and next week. They actually only have 5 games over the next 12 days. That's not very good. It's actually worse than that if you go shorter. They have 4 games over the next 10 days. That's bad. It gets particularly rough in kind of the middle of next week, and they've got a 1-4. But one of those games is also on that semi-overload Monday coming up. So Bulls are not a team that I'm racing out to pick up guys on, but I am intrigued by this Tre Jones thing. We know that he can be a pretty good fantasy player when he gets starters minutes. And if Lonzo's going to miss a little bit of time, that might be the way to go. But, the other side of that is, are you going to get enough games out of him? Well, that maybe it's why you tip a little bit more towards Roto for Tre Jones. But I like him as a replacement. I'm not picking up Taylor Horton-Tucker. You could not possibly pay me enough to take that plunge. And I'm hoping that Kevin Huerter comes back because he would actually be able to do some damage right now with so many guys on the shelf, but he's missed the last few also. So there's a lot shaking out in Chicago at the moment. And, we can't really do much with them until tomorrow when we get an injury report. But be ready to jump on Tre Jones, as in my opinion, and I know Zach Collins should already have been added because he's been great for 3 or 4 ball games in a row. If we get a bad report or a non-positive report on Lonzo, then Tre Jones is the pathway you want to take. Philly falling apart late, and unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with Paul George, who once again could not survive a ball game. It sounds like he's going to miss a bit of time with this one, and now Philly is just cooked. Not that they weren't before, but they got nobody left now. 76ers, 100% the most disappointing team in the NBA this year. Might as well try to lose as many ball games as they can the rest of the way. So I'd be floored if they played anybody with real basketball ability the rest of the way. That's not kind of me. They've got some guys they're going to put a bunch of minutes on, but they're going to be trying to lose games. So this is good for fantasy purposes. Quentin Grimes is going to put up big numbers the rest of the way. Kelly Oubre is going to put up big numbers the rest of the way. I would venture to guess that Guerschon Yabusele is going to put up decent numbers the rest of the way. I know Andre Drummond didn't do as much in this particular ball game, but he's a guy that I would probably be holding on to because we know that 24, 25 minutes of Andre is more than enough to do some real damage in rebounding and defensive stats. Probably want to be punting free throws if you're going down the Andre Drummond pathway. It's tough for him to get inside the top 100 if free throws are something you're trying to win because he can be a really huge drag on that. So, and honestly, there might even be another guy that pops up for Philly that's worth starting. I just don't know who it might be. It could be Justin Edwards if he gets back sooner than some of these other dudes. It could end up being Lonnie Walker, but probably not. It could be Jared Butler, but probably not. So for now, I think I'd probably just stick with those core 4, Grimes, Yabusele, Oubre, and Drummond, and maybe hope that we see Tyrese Maxey at some point. Either way, Philly's got some stuff going on right now, and we need to exploit it. Minnesota has been exactly what we thought. We talked about this on yesterday's show, so I'm going to speed round them. Julius Randle got re-added to the mix, and all it did was add another guy that had fantasy value. Now, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Mike Conley had a little bit better ball games here. Those guys are schedule play only type of dudes. I mentioned Mike Conley on our streaming show we did yesterday because the Wolves had 3 games in 4 nights. I did not mention Alexander Walker because I thought with Randall back, that would knock him down too far. As it turns out, he was actually still okay. Rest of season guys, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards. We'll see if Rudy Gobert ever resurfaces. He's just disappeared into nothingness. I assume he'll be back at some point, but we don't know for sure. Brooklyn got D'Angelo Russell back for 25 mediocre minutes. He's barely playable, barely. Rest of season style. Cam Thomas up to 26 minutes is a good sign. That's enough for him to get a lot of shots up, and he did so here. So I think you can officially start Cam Thomas. You can start Cam Johnson. You can start Nick Claxton. Everybody else, and I know Trendon Watford had a good ball game here, but I don't care. Everybody else on the Nets is a schedule level guy. Trendon Watford, Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, Daron Sharp, Zaire Williams. All of these guys you could use if or when Brooklyn's schedule picks up, which it does. They have a 5-game week next week. Any of those guys will be useful in a 5-game week. Not great, but useful. Some better than others. Like Daron Sharp is probably your most reliable of the fringe guys. I didn't see Trendon Watford popping up here. Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams, probably kind of in that second tier, although they weren't very good in this ball game. But Cam Thomas is going to sit some of those. D'Lo is going to sit some of those. Claxton probably sits 1 or 2 of those. There's some opportunities for the fringe guys to play 5 games and be interesting next week, but that's all they are. For the Spurs, the rest of season guys are Devin Vassell, Chris Paul, and De'Aaron Fox. Steph Castle in points leagues is a guy, not so much in 9-cat. Keldon Johnson, Harrison Barnes, Bismack Biyombo, Jeremy Sohan, Julian Champagny. I think all of those guys are schedule play level dudes, which for San Antonio is starting on Sunday. They have 5 games in 7 nights starting on Sunday. They have 6 games over 9 nights starting on Friday if you wanted to get in on them a little earlier. I just don't know that any of those guys are so great that you got to be like, oh, I got to get in on this stream 2 days earlier. Like, is any of them that exciting to you? Probably not. But at least they do get you 2 games over the final 3 days this week and then roll into 4 games the first 6 days next week. I told you we're hustling today, man. Only 2 games left to go over. Clippers lost at Phoenix. I can't believe the Suns won this ball game. These are 2 teams that just cannot figure out a way to get wins, and they got to play each other, so somebody was going to have to do it. The Suns moved back to within 3 games of the final play-in spot, so they're going to keep trying because they know the Mavs are in free fall. And that actually probably means the Blazers are going to keep trying because everybody's like, oh, there's a spot up for grabs. Sweet. I'll tell you what, man, schedule is going to make a really big difference for a lot of teams right now. But that Mavs last spot there is basically up for grabs. Zubats was awesome. Harden was solid. Kawhi was good. He'll sit the back-to-back. We talked a lot about Chris Dunn being an ad. He was bad. I'll wear that. But I'm holding him. 32 minutes is almost always going to be enough for Chris Dunn. 4 out of every 5 times. If he gets 32 minutes, he's going to put up a good line. Same story for Bogdan Bogdanovic. He played 37 minutes, and he was fine here. Not great, but like 8 times out of 10, 37 minutes for Bogdanovic, that's enough for him to put up a fantasy line. On our streaming show, I also talked about Amir Coffey as a sort of lower-end streamer, and he actually was okay. 13 points, a 3, and a couple of steals. Again, not a guy you're using in any critical spot, but they did start a back-to-back yesterday, and that's why I mentioned it, because the Clippers actually have one of the best schedules in the NBA. Starting yesterday, they have 12 games over 20 days. So that's a lot of guys that, I mean, it's a move you could make and just sit on basically for your entire playoffs. I'm hoping to do that with Chris Dunn, frankly, but we'll see what goes on with Norm. On the Phoenix side, and seriously, just like screw this team at this point, Bradley Beal went back down again. I don't even know. Like, you can hold on to Beal, but I really wouldn't be that mad at you if you just dropped him. He's been such a pain in the ass this year. For me, the most frustrating player of the season, maybe it's because I have him on a couple of roto teams even. It's hard to piss me off in roto with injury stuff. But Beal has been that guy because he keeps starting games and not finishing them. Just play for like 3 weeks in a row. For God's sake, man. Booker and Durant were, I would argue, the only playable guys in this game, but Booker was so bad at the free throw line and with turnovers that his game was kind of bad. Bull vanished completely, played 9 minutes. Everybody else was bad. If Beal is now set to miss a week or whatever, Tyus Jones would be your pickup here. Tyus Jones is over-rostered at the moment because he had a really nice run to start the year. But when this team's been healthy, the Suns, he's been bad. So I think you can throw Tyus Jones on a lot of rosters and hopefully get like a week out of him. In my opinion, would probably be good enough. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I don't know what the hell's going on with Bradley Beal. What am I going to tell you guys? Jones will be very useful if Beal's out, and if he's not going to be useful at all. And you're like, Dan, he only played 19 minutes in this game. Yeah, Beal played the first half, basically. We've seen it before. When one of the three main studs is out, I guess not so much with Durant, but when Booker or Beal is out, Jones is the guy that usually gets the bump up. Because they want to have that other point guard out there. I will see if it happens again this time, but and because Phoenix's schedule is not particularly heavy at the moment, you don't need to do anything. They don't play again until Friday. 2 days off for the Suns means that you can kind of sit on it. Anyway, again, I don't think you need to get out in front of this one. Nobody's racing out to pick up Tyus Jones after a mediocre ball game. But if we get a bad report on Beal, then you could probably think about it. And finally, Zion versus Jaxson Hayes. It's the battle we all thought we were getting yesterday. No, I kid, of course. Zion was awesome. I taped this game. I watched it later. Zion was unstoppable. This is the Zion that the Pelicans need every single night. Unfortunately for New Orleans, the Lakers have been pretty good defensively, and they guarded everyone else well. Like most of the main guys on the Pels didn't do much besides Zion. What do? Okay, well, you're holding on to Kelly Olynyk because 27 minutes of Kelly is way more than enough for him to make a splash. Jordan Hawkins got hot off the bench. I'm not adding him outside of, again, like he's a schedule level guy. CJ McCollum, you hold. Matkovic, you do not. He's not even really a schedule guy. Alvarado is probably not even really a schedule guy. Bruce Brown. These guys are close. Like if the schedule for the Pelicans got really, really good all of a sudden, you could make an argument for it. And they do have a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back, but then they go back into kind of a quiet schedule after that. It's not a terrible spot for them, but I think we can do better. Is basically where I'm getting at with these guys. Yves Missy had been pretty good at a punt free throw mold lately, and he did miss 2 more free throws in this ball game. You know, the 3 steals are nice. The defensive stats are nice. He's typically pretty good with rebounds. He's very much a specialist level guy. I think you could probably call him a schedule play in most formats. But he does have that, like, I'm good at a couple things and bad at a lot of things build, where if you're hunting particular categories, that's where that type of player takes a little bit more of a front seat. On the Lakers side, I've been talking a lot about Jaxson Hayes, and I've been kind of looking like an idiot, which is fine because I'm sort of used to it. But it panned out. And the reason that I kept talking about Jaxson Hayes was because Rui Hachimura was out, and the Lakers needed someone to go to the rim. As great as Luka Doncic is, a lot of what he does is drive, draw like 4 defenders, and then find somebody wide open. And it's what happened in this ballgame. Most of his scoring was from outside. He had 6 3-pointers in this ballgame. He had 1 or 2 layups, I think. But no, Luka is not a always going to the bucket guy. He'll get fouled because he's very clever and he took 11 free throws. LeBron will go to the bucket. Rui will go to the bucket, who's out. Austin Reeves will go to the bucket. He's out. And Jaxson Hayes will stand next to the bucket. He's not going to go to it, but he's going to stand there. And that's why I thought this was a pretty good time to roll with Jaxson Hayes, because I thought we were going to get a few, like, going to the rim kind of games. He got pushed around by Ivica Zubac, and that was probably my oversight, was to say, look, this is not a good matchup for him. This one was, though. Because the Pelicans ran Missy at center, who can't guard anybody. Olynyk at center, who's not really guarding anybody, and then it's Zion at center, who's way undersized to guard anybody, even if he was trying to. So this is the perfect situation for Jaxson Hayes coming in after basically having two terrible situations. And yes, again, if I had my head screwed on right, we would have been able to see that coming. But 24 minutes of Jaxson Hayes from Luka and LeBron passing to him should be enough until Rui Hachimura comes back. And then I don't know exactly how that's going to shake out, but I do think he's streamable right now in the short term. Jared Vanderbilt had a nice ball game, but the minutes are a little too low to trust. Shake Milton and Dalton Connect also had decent ball games, but again, minutes are way too low to trust. And so basically, you're just going with LeBron, Luka, and I think right now you could squeeze out something from Jaxson Hayes. Guys, I already pre-built my Underdog fantasy card. I don't know if you can see it if you're watching on YouTube, but before we talk about that, please take a moment to come on, Dan. Subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I really need you guys to keep piling up here. Let's try to snowball some new users towards the end so that I can keep doing all this stuff for free forever. That's the goal. But the way we do that is by growing really, really fast all the time. And it's been that way up until the All-Star break. It's become a little bit more difficult. And I get it. Not that many of you are new viewers right now. But if you are, please subscribe. Please hit that like button. Comments are open if you have any questions or whatever. I'm happy to drop in there and answer them. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, I know some of you guys are still finding us over there, drop that 5-star review. That's a really big deal and helps us grow, especially going into next year. If you want to play Underdog Fantasy with us at underdogfantasy.com, use promo code OLDMAN when you sign up, OLDMAN. At sign up, it unlocks up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus cash and a free square instead of having to pick two names on a particular card or a particular pick'em lineup, I should say. When you use that promo that you unlock again by using the code OLDMAN or clicking the link in the show description to sign up, you only have to pick one for that one day. But guess what? I've given you two today, and I point, rebound, and assist. And you might be asking yourself, Dan, why are you going point, rebound, assist on both of them? Well, it's about playing time for me. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know when someone's going to have a high-scoring game. That type of stuff surprises me. What I think I can predict a little bit better is when a guy's just going to be on the court a lot. And these two guys are going to be on the court a lot. We know Walker Kessler is out for Utah. We know John Collins is out. There's just really nobody else besides Filipowski to soak up a lot of those big man minutes. He'll score some, but we know he's also going to rebound, and he passes relatively well out of the big man spot. So you roll it all together. I think he's going to have a decent ball game. And then Najee Marshall, 24.5 actually felt a little bit low to me. I think that, we may have been lulled into a false sense of lower totals from his last ball game, but he's actually going to be running some point. He's a good ball mover. He'll rebound a little bit. He's going to take a bunch of shots. So I expect these guys to both play 28 minutes or more. I'm hoping for something in the 30s. And if that's the case, I think I got a pretty good shot to get there. So I just put $3 on this one. We'll bring back 9 if it hits. Hopefully you guys can join with us and play at underdogfantasy.com with promo code OLDMAN. And that's your show today. We moved at a pretty good clip, right? I promised some kind of pace. Is alacrity the word I'm looking for? What does alacrity mean? Isn't that like of good pace? Brisk and cheerful readiness. Yeah, this is brisk and cheerful here at Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Thanks for watching, everybody. Again, like, rate, and subscribe on your way out. We'll be back with you guys in about 2 hours with our streaming playoff episode where we'll look at today, best plays on Wednesday, and best plays on Thursday. So any of you that are stuck making a move ahead of time, check out our DFS show that dropped this morning from Brenton Eckersley. We're going to have a baseball show that drops at some point either later today or first thing tomorrow because baseball draft season is clicking right now. I am Dan Bespris, at Dan Bespris on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. I'll see you guys over on social or in our Discord where I'm doing all of our nightly recaps. See you in a couple hours.